Good evening, everyone.
Shalom, Rav. Sameach.
Oh, Lag BaOmer Sameach to everyone. How are you all?
Sameach, Rav.
How are you all? Is everyone well?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Dr. Les, you look much younger than me now.
Oh yeah, I was so happy to take it off. I can't tell you. I can't tell you. Wow.
I can't wait for tomorrow morning. I can't wait for tomorrow morning to take it off. You know.
No, because I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Looks like it's only.
So they're having weddings. They're having more weddings, and that's very good.
Baruch Hashem, that's very nice. What's the news in Israel? Tell us.
No, okay, so I'm going to tell you something actually very, very interesting. Hebrew University, and I had a patient, actually non-Jewish patient today, that's actually come from Canada, and she loves Israel, and she's at Hebrew University doing Israel and Judaic studies. But Hebrew University was ranked number 64 in the world. And today, and this is really significant, the Board of Governors, they appointed the first Arab woman vice president, Professor Mona Kuri Kasabari. And why I'm mentioning this is that the Human Rights Watch, unbelievable, came out with a statement and a whole report saying that Israel, not only on the West Bank, Yehuda v'Shamron, which they call the West Bank, or Gaza, or even they said, but Israel itself is apartheid. And look at the lies, the sheker from this organization that a few years ago went to Saudi Arabia to collect money, and they've labeled Israel an apartheid state. And its founder, Robert Bernstein, a Yiddisher, said that they've lost their moral compass. The organization that he founded, which is now, unfortunately, the head of it is Kenneth Roth, who's a Yiddisher himself, but a son of Israel. So you know what? We just see the total sheker. And Rav, I'll just quickly end off here. Just as the fires of Lag BaOmer will ignite, and so will Am Yisrael will be a Or L'Chol HaGoyim, and we'll remain a Or L'Chol HaGoyim.
God, please, God. Yeah. Well, wish all, thank you, Dr. Les. Wish all of you Hag Lag BaOmer Sameach. Please God that we should see the light. We'll start the show because we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to mute everyone, and then Louis, you're going to unmute yourself. You know how to do that. You don't need me. I'm muting everyone, and we'll start the show. בעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח, והשם עלינו ברחמיו ירוויח. אשר יהיה לעילוי נשמת אסתר קדן בת קציה, מרדכי בן רחמה, הרב אברהם, חיים בן אליעזר יעקב, תמר בת זהבה, רחל בת מלכה סולטנה, נשמתם תהיה צרורה בצור החיים, please God, לרפואת ליאורה בת מרים, שמואל בן מיכל, מנשה נג'י בן פרחה, אורנה בלומה בת מרים, הרב אברהם בן מרינה, הרב שלמה יהודה בן דליה, משה בן דבורה, דבורה בת אסתר, התינוק ידידיה זליג בן אשיר רחל, משה מאיר בן חנה, חנה חיים נחום בן צבי הכהן, חנה שרה בת דבורה, שלמה פנחס בן שינה פישה, מרדכי דוד בן לאה, והרב משה בן דבורה. בעזרת השם רפואה שלמה to all of them. So we in Parashat Emor. What's happening in Parashat Emor? We'll do the introduction. At the beginning of the Parashat, the Torah speak about and command the Kohanim to keep their holiness and purity, obviously. And the Torah tells us who's the Kohanim can contaminate and who they're not allowed to get contaminated. Not only that, the Torah continue and tell us the Kohen, who is he allowed to marry and which woman is not allowed to marry. And also, when it's come to the Kohen Gadol, the Torah tell us that because his holiness, because his purity, he have extra string that he's not allowed. That means that he have extra prohibition, okay, more than the normal Kohanim. And continue in the Parsha, the Torah speak about the Jewish festival. And not only that, the Torah actually tell us all the mitzvot that belong to every Moed, every Yom Tov. After that, the Torah speak about keeping the Shabbat, that we obligate to keep the Shabbos. Then the Torah speak about the Lechem HaPanim and Ner HaTamid. Okay, that was all the time used to be burnt on the south part of Bet HaMikdash. Okay, in the end of the Parsha, it's a very sad story. We see that was a fight between two people, and one man actually took himself to the side, and he actually swear. That means he cursed HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They took him into captivity, and what happened? Moshe Rabbeinu have to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's going to happen with a person like that? And the answer was that his punishment was death, and the way that they killed him, they stoned him. That means that the punishment was dead and they stoned him. That's how the Parsha, basically, brief idea about the Parsha. Also, we see something very interesting in the Parsha, that there is 24 positive command and 39 negative command in the Torah. That's one of the Parshiot that have a lot of mitzvot on it. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach, ve'Hashem elaynu berachama ve'yarviach. We're going to start now Parashat Emor, and the Parsha start like this. Vayomer Adonai Emor el hakohanim bnei Aharon, ve'amarta alehem, lenefesh lo yitama be'amav. Bechavod, Louis.
Sorry, I was still muted. Hashem said to Moses, say to the Kohanim, the son of Aaron, and tell them, each of you shall not contaminate himself to a dead person among all the people.
Okay, here we see something very interesting. The Torah tell us, it says here, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe le'emor, Emor el hakohanim. What it mean, Emor el hakohanim? We're going to, Be'ezrat Hashem, going to go through everything. Many of the Mefarshim say, why is the Torah tell us like this? Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, listen to that, Emor el hakohanim, speak to the Kohanim, the priest, okay, Bnei Aaron, which other priest we know that it was. Guys, there is a noise at the back, and it's difficult for me to focus when there is noise at the back. I'm going to mute everyone. Muting everyone. Yeah. Louis, don't forget to unmute yourself because there's noise at the back and I can't focus. Okay. So the Torah tells us that like this. Emor el hakohanim, speak to the Kohanim, Bnei Aaron, the children of Aaron. And immediately many of the Mefarshim ask, wait, do you know any other Kohanim beside the children of Aaron? Even today, there is any Kohanim that the other of the children of Aaron? So the Mefarshim explain what's happening here. And the question is, who's those Kohanim that they're speaking, if there is any other Kohanim? First of all, we have to understand. So I hope that you understand. It said, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Emor el hakohanim. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell Moshe, spoke to the Kohanim, the children of Aaron. Why does he say that? It says, speak el hakohanim, and we know that that's the children of Aaron. So the Mefarshim explain something extraordinary. The Mefarshim explain that here there is a very important message to the Kohanim, to those that they are a Kohanim. And the message was to tell them, Daber el hakohanim bnei Aaron, remember, each Kohen have to remember that he's the children of Aaron. Why does this come to tell us? It said that each one of them received that situation, that to become a Kohen, not because he's married, because his grandfather, because his father, who was his father, the original person, the Kohen Gadol, was Aaron HaKohen. It's come to tell you that the Kohen, although that he is one of the chosen and the uplifted and the excelled one amongst the Jewish people, you have to remember something very important, that he received his position as a Kohen not because he's married, because it was Aaron HaKohen. That was his father, that was his grandfather, that was the grandfather, until you become a Kohen. That means every Kohen have to understand that he mustn't be proud and arrogant. It's only because he was the grandson, or because he was the son of Aaron, or because he was the grandson, and etc. until today. That means the Kohanim have to behave, number one, with modesty. That's the most important. Number one, modesty. Then it says something very interesting. It says in the Parsha, Emor el HaKohanim, bnei Aaron ve'amarta. Rashi HaKadosh on that say, Emor ve'amarta. What it means, Emor ve'amarta, we'll speak about it just now. But it says here, Emor. What it means, Emor ve'amarta? It says, first of all, I'm going to bring the Midrash Tanhuma. The Midrash Tanhuma, it's a Midrash that's written by Rabbi Tanhuma. Rabbi Tanhuma, it was a sage. And he says in chapter 1 there, he says, Amarot Hashem, Amarot Tehorot. What it means, Amarot Hashem, Amarot Tehorot? We have to understand. The Midrash tells us that whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, it's a pure thing. It's a pure voice. It's a pure sound. So first of all, that verse comes from Tehillim. In chapter 12, verse 7, that you can find this verse. And we have to understand, what does it mean? It's mean, Hazal say, that here HaKadosh Baruch Hu come and warn the children of Israel, the Kohanim, okay, that they have to be very careful with purity, and the most important is the holiness. And we have to understand what's happening here. And I saw a beautiful commentary of Rabbi Haim Sofer. Rabbi Haim Sofer, he born in the city of Prosburg in Hungary. He born around 200 years ago, and he wrote a book on the Torah, commentary on the Torah, that's called Divrei Sharei Haim. And in his book, he says something very important. He says, here we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu warned the children of Israel, he warned the Kohanim to make sure that they become holy, number one, and they become pure. And we have to understand what's happening. So he said that you have to understand something very important. He said that the Kohanim have to be secluded from the normal Jewish people. And then, not only that, the Jewish people have to be secluded from the rest of the nation. And he explained why. He said that the Jewish people have to keep the purity and the holiness. They have to make sure that they're all the time secluded. Why? He said because the Jewish people, if they get contaminated, Has v'shalom, or Has v'shalom, they get involved with things that can cause them abomination, that can cause them a big problem. Say Rabbi Haim Sofer. And he explained that the main reason for it is because the sensitivity of the Jewish people. Every Jewish people, every Jewish person in his heart, he doesn't even realize it, that his neshama is so sensitive that Has v'shalom, when that neshama get involved with something unpure, it's affecting her immediately. And he said like this, listen what he said. Say Rabbi Haim Sofer like this. He said, if you take a prince that grown up in a palace most of his life, if you take a person that grown up on a farm, very rough, a rough guy. He say, if they have to eat a food, who's have a better chance if that food is heavy, if that food not so fresh? Who's gonna suffer immediately? He said like this. He said that the prince will suffer immediately much more. He said, why? Because all of his life he grown up in the palace. The food is fresh. The food that he been served by, it's not only that it's fresh, it's very sensitive to what he get used. That means his stomach is very sensitive. He said, but if you take a guy that grown up in a farm and is very rough, say if it's not so fresh, it's not going to affect him. But he said, God forbid you give it to the prince, immediately you're going to get sick. He said, that's the Jewish people. A Jewish person is so sensitive that God forbid he get contaminated or get involved with things that he shouldn't, that spiritually contaminate him and he wouldn't even understand what's happening and he becomes sick. Why? Because our neshama is so pure, so pure, that every little thing can affect our neshama. And that's what it says. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Emor el HaKohanim b'nei Aaron amarta alehem lenefesh lo yitama. What it means lenefesh lo yitama? That the Kohanim should not get contaminated. That's on the pshat of that, but in the depths, that even a Jewish people should not get contaminated. That means that there is a book of manual, and that's the Torah, and that's what they both follow. So now we understand the beginning. But let's continue with the pasuk. It says Emor ve'amarta. You remember I mentioned that. What it means Emor ve'amarta? Rashi HaKadosh, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, that born in a city of Troyes in the north of France, Rashi HaKadosh, born 981 years ago. He said, Le'azhir gedolim ala ketanim. Emor ve'amarta. That means, when it's repeat himself, Emor is to say, ve'amarta, to tell them, it said that it's come to warn the elderly on the youngest. What is Rashi HaKadosh trying to tell us? On a pshat of the dvarim, Rashi come to tell us that the elderly people have to make sure that they're watching the youngsters. What does it mean? The parents have to make sure that the children following the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the teachers, the rabbis, those that teach the Jewish people have to make sure that they're watching those youngsters and to make sure that they're showing them the way of Hashem, to study Torah, to daven, and etc. But from here, we learn something extraordinary. And I saw that in a book of Harav Ben Zion Mutzafi. He said, Emor ve'amarta. He said, Emor is a positive command. Ve'amarta is a negative command. How did you come to it? When I first read this, I was a bit, I couldn't understand. How did you get to it? And he explained it beautifully. He said like this. He said, in the time that Bet HaMikdash was exist, the Kohanim, we know that most of the mitzvot that they used to do, it's mainly on Bet HaMikdash, that they have a lot of mitzvot. Most of them was with the korbanot, with the sacrifice, when the Kohanim, number one, have to slaughter the korbanot, after that to sprinkle the blood, and then they have the mitzvah ketorah. But all of those jobs today, they not exist anymore. Korbanot is not exist, you all know. The sprinkling of the blood not exist. The sacrifice of the ketoret is the spices, not exist today. So he say, but he says something very important. He said from that it say Emor ve'amarta, he said that there is two mitzvot that the Kohanim still obligated to do it today. What is it? He said that the positive command that it's Emor, that every Kohen obligated to bless Bnei Israel. He said, where did you learn that? It say in Sefer Bamidbar, in Parashat Naso, in Perek Vav, chapter 6, verse 23, Pasuk Kav Gimel, Ko tevachu et Bnei Israel, Emor lahem. He said, from that it say Emor lahem, It's come to teach us that it's a positive command to bless Bnei Israel. He said ve'amarta, it's a negative command. What it means ve'amarta? It means ve'amarta, it's later on in the pasuk, it says ve'lenefesh lo yitama be'amar. That means it's a negative command for the Kohen to contaminate himself. It means, he said like this, that from here you learn that even Beit HaMikdash, when it's not going to be exist, will be still 2 mitzvot that the Kohanim have to fulfill. The positive command is to bless Bnei Israel. They have a blessing. They have a mitzvah that they should bless Bnei Israel, Birkat Kohanim, Duchanim. The negative command that they're going to have is not to get contaminated. That means, from here we learn that Emor ve'amarta teach us many things. Number 1, positive command. Number 2 is a negative command there is there. Number 3, Emor ve'amarta, make sure that the elderly, Emor ve'amarta, that means that the elderly in charge about the youngsters, to make sure that they will study Torah, to make sure that they will follow the way of Hashem. That's Emor ve'amarta. And then it says, lenefesh lo itama be'amar. Here we see something very extraordinary. What it means, lenefesh lo itama be'amar? So I saw a commentary that the Maharhu is Moreno Arav Rabbi Chaim Vital. He born in Jerusalem 493 years ago. And he asked the question like this: what is the reason that the Kohanim not allowed to contaminate to a deceased? Very valid question. Why is the Kohen, if there is a deceased, not allowed to get involved with him, not allowed to come into the room with him? Why is that? Why is it so important that the Kohanim? But the rest of Israel, yes. That's the question of the Mahar. And the Mahar will bring 2 answers. And listen to the beautiful Chokhmah of Gdolei Israel. How Gdolei Israel, how they think, how did they, it sounds simple, but look how depths they gone into it. So the Maharhu, first of all, explained like this. He said the job of the Kohen Gadol and the job of the Kohanim was mainly in Beit HaMikdash, okay? We know that they have to bring the korbanot, to sacrifice the korbanot, okay, on the altar. By that they used to do that, said the Maharhu, they're doing atonement to the person that they're doing. That means they're doing atonement to all Israel, that they're canceling all the avonot, okay? And what did they do by that they're canceling all the avonot and they're doing atonement? They bring in life to the Jewish people, okay? That means that they're removing Has v'shalom, punishment of death, if there is, on a Jewish people. The Kohanim actually remove it. Where do we see it? With Aaron. Aaron in Het HaEgel, when it was, he took what? He took the Ketoret. V'ya'amod ben hamitim ve'achayim. The Torah tells us that Aaron stood between the life and the dead. Hazal there in the depths explain in the merit of that sacrifice that called the spices, okay, he saved the Jewish people. Hazal tell us when Moshe Rabbeinu gone up to heaven, and when he was in heaven, he gone to bring the Torah. And I have a fight with the angel. Anyway, I'm going to make the story short. I mentioned that before. When he wanted to bring the Torah, they fought with him. After he won them with the argument, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, mean, hold my chair of glory, and give them an answer. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, do you have a Yetzer Hara? Do you go to Mitzrayim to become slave? You know, did you born to a human being, and etc.? Do you have any mitzvot? Anyway, in the end, they all accepted. Hazal tell us, and the Zohar Kadosh explain, that even the angel of death approached who? Moshe Rabbeinu, and said to him, I'm going to give you a present. If you see that the Jewish people in danger, say the Ketoret. Say the Ketoret, the spices. That means tell Aaron that can stop any plague. Today that we don't have it, By saying it, it's like we're sacrificing it. So we see that the job of the Kohen to bring life. So how can the Kohen now, that all of his job to bring life, gonna get busy with a deceased? It doesn't suit, it doesn't go together. It's not nice that he gonna be busy with the dead people. That's one answer. That because the Kohen bring life to the world, it's not nice that he gonna get with deceased. The other explanation that said the Maharhu, again, he said that the job of them is to sacrifice the korbanot, to bring life. Not only that, because they was busy all the time sacrificing. Imagine now if the Kohen gonna get contaminated, for 7 days conserve. So to be busy with individual, is that better that the Kohen gonna contaminate and he can't serve the entire whole nation, or it's better to serve the entire nation and not to be busy with the deceased? Say the Maharhu. The Maharhu says something interesting. The Maharhu say, in that case, you learn when the Torah told the Kohen that he's not allowed to get contaminated, because we have here two different things. We have number one, it's not a nice job for the Kohen. Number two, the job that the Kohen have to do, it's because that the Kohen have to, number one, I have to understand that the job that he have to do with Klal Israel, okay, with the whole people of the Jewish people, to do atonement for him, more important than to get involved with the individual. Why? Because there's other people that can do it. But when the Kohen allowed to get contaminated, that has b'shalom, there is no other people to wash the body, to look after the deceased, to bury him. He obligated. Mishum lo talin nivlato. So from here we see that the main reason that the Torah tells us that the Kohanim should not get contaminated, it's for the simple reason. Why? Because they bring life, number one, and number two, it's more important the job of the nation, the entire nation, than to get involved with one person. Let's move on to verse 5. In verse 5, the Torah tells us something very extreme, and we have to understand what's happening. In verse 5, the Torah tells us like this, לא יקרחו כורחה בראשם, ופאת זקנם לא יגלחו, ובבשרם לא יסרטו שרטת.
They shall not take a bald spot on their heads, and they shall not shave or an edge on their beard, and in their flesh they shall not cut a gash.
Okay, so from here we see that the Torah comes and teach us that the mourners, people, they're mourning, and they said about a person, a relative, whatever you want to call it, they're not allowed to mourn extremely. And we have to understand, what difference does it make if a person mourns extremely or not? So I saw a beautiful commentary of Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra. Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra, born in the city of Toledo, 932 years ago in Spain. And he explained that the Torah given at this mitzvah, that we're not allowed to mourn extremely on a deceased for the simple reason. He said because we should understand that that's the source of the emunah. What is Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra tried to tell us? The source of the emunah. He said, you know why the Torah given at that prohibition? He said like this. It said the mental idea behind it, it's emunah. It's a Jewish person have to remember that if he mourn extremely, he have a problem. Why? Because we as Jewish people believe in the remaining of the soul. Okay? On reincarnation. He said the Goyim doesn't believe on the remaining of the soul. They doesn't believe in reincarnation. He said, by that you don't mourn too much, that means that you're saying, I believe in the remaining of the soul. The soul now, Hashem natan, Hashem lakach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu give, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took. That soul that was here gone up now to heaven, to a better place. When you mourn too extreme about the deceased, you're showing, Has v'shalom, like you don't have emunah, like you don't believe that there is no more remaining of the soul. And Hazal say, matter of fact, listen to that the soul of a human being before he born doesn't want to come down to earth. Doesn't want to come down to earth. The Mekubalim explain what's hiding, what's the fundamental idea behind it. Because when the neshama up in heaven, she has such a great pleasure, such a nachas, she doesn't want to come here to earth. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu put her in a body and she come. Chazal say that when a person dies, lo alenu, there is 7 days. And how's the 7 days? He said that the Torah tells us that 3 days lo alenu to mourn, to cry. Shlosha yamim labechi. The first 3 days, you're allowed to cry. After the 3 days, from that extreme, immediately now you should go up, lift up yourself, to understand that the soul going to a better place in heaven. She going back to where? To the place that the neshama is supposed to be. That the neshama feel much more comfortable. He said by that you mourn extremely, has v'shalom, you're showing that you don't believe. You don't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That you know better than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If not that, why do you mourn so extreme? You love him. I'm sure that you love the deceased. Everyone loves someone close. But what is it? By that you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu know what is best for that person that passed away. If you believe on that, you're giving nachas to the deceased. And that's all the Kaddish. Maybe I'll do one day, please God, maybe next week, I'll do a shiur on Sunday on a Kaddish. What does the Kaddish do? The Kaddish is actually only a nachas to the deceased, but it doesn't mention any deceased. It said by that we're praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're showing as a mourners, thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what he done, and praising him. That means that we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what he done for that soul, it's the best. And that's what the Torah tells us here. That when he comes as a Jewish people, we cannot mourn in an extreme way. The fundamental idea behind it is to understand that the neshama is still alive. There is a remaining of the soul. It's gone up to heaven. Now it's sitting up in heaven with all the tzaddikim in Gan Eden. Listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. Listen to Moshe Rabbeinu giving shaurim. What better than that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu sitting there. V'tzaddikim atrotam berosham. That means every tzaddik have his own atara, his own crown, his own glorified. It's not body, it's a soul. And they're listening to Torah. There's nothing better than that for the soul. So the Torah, that's what's come to teach us. The fundamental idea behind all of that mourning extremely, it's emunah, to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In verse 2, let's move on to verse 14. In verse 14, now we're going to speak about the Kohen Gadol, and let's see what it says. Verse 14. Almana ugurusha vehalala zona et ele lo yikach ki im betula me'amav yikach isha.
A widow, a divorcee, a deceased woman, a harlot, he shall not marry these, only in a virgin of his people shall be take as a wife.
Okay, here we see something very extraordinary. It tells us about the Kohen Gadol, that even a woman, that she's a widow, okay, a Kohen Gadol not allowed. While a normal Kohen allowed to marry a widow, the Kohen Gadol not. And that question that I'm going to put now, been asked by the Hida, the Gaon Hida, Rabbi Haim Yosef David Azulai. Rabbi Haim Yosef David Azulai, born in Jerusalem 297 years ago. And he says here, how come that a normal Kohen allowed to marry a widow, while the Kohen Gadol, even a widow not allowed to marry? We know that a divorcee, a Kohen not allowed to marry, a convert is not allowed to marry. But when it's come to Zonah vehalala, also not. As it's come to a widow, only the Kohen Gadol not allowed. How come? What's the difference? What difference does it make that the Kohen Gadol cannot marry a widow? That's the question of the Gaon Hida. What's the difference? So listen how the Gaon Hida answered it. Is the Gaon Hida saying, we know that the Kohen Gadol, when he used to serve in Bet HaMikdash, one of the things that he used to know, and many of the Kohanim didn't know, it's Shema Meforash, the holy name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's the connection? Said the Gaon Hida, with the holy name, the Kohen Gadol can perform many miracles. He can kill a person with the holy name, like we saw with Moshe Rabbeinu, that when he saw the Egyptian hitting the Jewish person, what happened? Moshe Rabbeinu looked to the left, looked to the right. The Midrash said, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't look really to the left, to the right. Moshe Rabbeinu looked from now to the end of his generation. Is anything good going to come from that Egyptian one day? And he saw, no, only Rasha'im going to come. So what has he done? He said the holy name and he killed them. By the way, just to give you some knowledge, what am I talking? That's what's called Kabbalah Ma'asit. A person that is really Mekubal, today there is no one that knows. In Kabbalistic, mystical rabbi know Kabbalah Ma'asit. What is Kabbalah Ma'asit? That they know the holy names, and with that they perform. And with that they perform. And what they do with that, so now you're all gonna ask, wait, but the Kohen Gadol in Yom Kippurim used to mention the holy name. And all Israel heard that. Yes, Nachon, they all heard that. But as they left Bet HaMikdash, they all forget it. Hazal explained in the Gemara. That means that the Jewish people heard the holy name, but they forgot it when they're gone, so they couldn't use it. But the Kohen Gadol knew the holy name. Come and say, Rabbi, the Hida, the Gaon Hida, Rabbi Haim Yosef David Azulai Selagos. He said, from here you learn something very extraordinary. The Torah was worried that what people are going to speak about Kohen Gadol if he married a widow. Why? Because people, love to kuchul, love to speak Lashon Hara. I don't want to say Lo'otzi Shem Ra. I'm saying that's Lashon Hara. That might people are going to come and say, this Kohen Gadol have his eyes on this woman while her husband was alive. And the only reason that he's dead because the Kohen Gadol wanted that one. So he killed them with Shema Meforash, with the holy name, and now he married her. So the Torah comes, say the Gaon Hida, and worried what people might going to speak about the Kohen Gadol, and say, no, we don't want people to speak about the Kohen Gadol. We don't, Has v'shalom, want gossiping. We don't want Lashon Hara. We don't want Motzi Shem Ra. In that case, he's not allowed to marry even a divorcee. So now we can understand why the Torah tells us, and there is an extra prohibition for the Kohen Gadol not to marry a widow, while a normal Kohen can marry a widow. Okay, now we're going to move to verse 18, and now I'm going to give you a remedy. Here in that verse, we'll see that there is a remedy, and that remedy brought again by the Gaon Hida that bring it in the name of the Ari HaKadosh. We'll see now. Ki kol ish, verse 18, Louis. Ki kol ish, bo mum, lo yikrav, איש עיוור, או פיסח, או חירם, או שרוע.
For any man there is a blemish shall not approach a man who is blind or lame, or whose nose has no bridge, or who has no limb longer than the other.
Okay. Here the Torah tells us something extraordinary, that if there is certain Kohanim, okay, that they have a defect or blemish on them, and by the way, Hazal and Gemara tell us that there is 80 blemishes, 80 defects, okay, that the Kohen cannot work on Bet HaMikdash if he have one of them, 80. So here the Torah come and tell us that if there is a Kohen or there is a Jew, Lo Alenu, that have a blemish or that have a defect, it's a problem. It's a problem for him. The Kohanim cannot serve in Bet HaMikdash. Come the Gaon Hida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai, and he say in the name of Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi. Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, born in Jerusalem, okay, he born around 487 years ago. And a matter of fact, he's what the Ari HaKadosh saying and what the Gaon Hida saying, it's brought in the book Or LaTzadikim. Or Tzadikim, it's a book that's been written by Rabbi Meir Pepirash. Rabbi Meir Pepirash was a student of Ari HaKadosh that born in the city of Krakow in Poland, and he born 397. In his book, Or Tzadikim, he say it in the name of his rabbi, the Ari HaKadosh, because Rabbi Meir Pepirash was a student of Rabbi Ari HaKadosh, okay? And he said that from this verse, you learn a remedy. There is a segula. Now, Rabota, listen to it. If you don't understand, I'm going to give time for you to ask questions. I usually don't stop the show, but for that, I'm willing to stop. What it means a remedy? Say, Ari HaKadosh, listen what he said. If people feel that they have what it means a problem, that the luck doesn't move, the luck is stuck. Not only that, nothing moving on the line, or that they feel that there is a problem in the way that they're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're feeling like people don't move, you know, this feeling like nothing happened. If people even feel that they don't have the heshek, okay, the excitement to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to understand there is a remedy here. He said, for example, a person that called Abraham, let's take the name Abraham. Abraham, how do you write Abraham in Hebrew? Aleph, Bet, Resh, Hey, Mem Sofit. He said, all the person that his name is Abraham, or his name, whatever his name, have to remember the Hebrew letters. Aleph for Aleph, okay? Bet for Abraham, okay? Resh, Hey, Mem Sofit, okay? That's how you write Abraham. He said, if that doesn't help you, start work it out. Aleph, Bet, Resh, Mem. What it mean, Aleph, Bet, Resh, Mem? I repeat, that you remember, try to understand, how do you write Aleph? Aleph is Aleph Lamed, Tzadik Sofit, Bet Yud Taf, okay? Resh Yud Shin, okay? Hey is Aleph Hey, and Mem Sofit. And if that's not enough, now you do Milui Sheba Milui. How do you write Aleph? Aleph Lamed, Tzadik Sofit, Lamed Mem Daled, and Pei Hey. That's for the word Aleph. Bet, for example, Bet Yud Tet, Bet Yud Taf, Yud Vav Daled, and then Taf Vav. That's Bet. And that's how you do it on and on and on. And you remember that and say the Ari HaKadosh, listen. Ve'omer Ari HaKadosh, mi she'aseh zot, en sof le'atzlachato. That means there is no end to his success. If it doesn't work the first time, doesn't work the second time, continue doing it. Remember the letters and how you write the letters Aleph, for example, how you write the letters Bet, and how to write the letters Resh, and how to write the letters Hey, and how to write the letters Mem. Repeat, that's for the example of Avraham. Let's take another name. If a person is named Yitzhak, so it's Yud, Tzadik, Het, Kuf, that Yitzhak. How do you write Yud? Yud Vav Dalet, okay? And if you want to write Tzadik, how do you write Tzadik? Tzadik Dalet Yud. Okay, Kuf, Tzadik. Okay, so that's the Tzadik. Then Het, Het Taf. Okay, for the letters Het. Okay, and then this Kuf, you write Kuf. That means Kuf and Tzadik Sofit. Said the Ari Kadosh, if you take your Hebrew name and you remember all of those, he guarantees you that there is no stop for your success. Okay, that's the Segula. But how does that fit with the verse that we read? Ki kol ish asher yesh bo mum lo yikrav. That means every person that have any one of those defects, any one of those blemishes, not allowed to come and serve, okay, in Bet HaMikdash. That means referring to the Kohanim. How's that fit? Listen what the Gaon Hida said. And he take it, and he took the word of Ari HaKadosh, and he multiplied. He said that if you take the word mum, that the Torah tells us, kol ish asher yesh bo mum, he said, how do you write mum? Mem, vav, mem, sofit. He said, take every letters of it. For example, mem, you write mem, mem, sofit. Vav, vav, mem, 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 sofit. He said, whatever you're going to put it, wherever you're going to try to twist it, it's going to stay mum. The word mum will stay. It will never come. Therefore, a Kohen that have a mum, have a blemish or have a defect on his body cannot serve in Bet HaMikdash. But he said from the other way, if a Jewish person take his name and he want to open his luck, he want to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu better, he want to feel connected more, he want his soul to be open, to take his Hebrew name, first of all, to remember how do I write my name in Hebrew. After that, how do I write every letter of my name in Hebrew? And on and on and on, go deeper. Milui, then Milui Sheba Milui, and etc. That's the remedy that we can learn from that pasuk. But if person, lo alenu, that have yesh bo mum, what it means yesh bo mum? He have a defect, he have a blemish on himself. Lo alenu, he cannot serve in Bet HaMikdash. And that's what verse come to teach us. That the Kohen that have a blemish can never serve in Bet HaMikdash. Why? Because the mum, the blemish, the defect that he have in his body, it will stay forever. And that's the secret behind it. So we learn now what I've done with you. I've done with you the Pshat, the Remez, and the Drash, and the Sod all in one thing. And who's that in the merit? That Gaon Hida bringing in the name of Ari HaKadosh, that brought by Rabbi Meir Pepirash, his student. Let's move on to verse 32. And in verse 32, we see something very interesting. Okay, where's verse 32? Where did I go on? No, verse 32 in chapter 22. Louis, chapter 22, verse 32. I'm skipping a bit. I know that the time is late, so I'm moving fast as I can. I don't want to keep you too long. And in verse 32, it says like this. ולא תחללו את שם קודשי ונקדשתי בתוך בני ישראל, אני אדוני מקדשכם.
Yeah. You shall not desecrate my holy name, rather I shall be sacrificed among the children of Israel. I'm Hashem who sanctifies you.
Okay. On the pshat of the dvarim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell us that we have to make sure that we have to keep to our holiness. Okay? Why? That we should not desecrate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's if you look at it generally. But what's hiding behind it? I saw a commentary of Rabbi Ovadia Misforno. Rabbi Ovadia Misforno, born in the city of Cesena in the north of Italy. He born 551 years ago. He was a doctor in his profession. Besides that, he wrote beautiful commentary and he was a great scholar on all the Torah. And he said like this, he said that from this verse, HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually given us a covenant and a promise that he will never stop doing with us miracle and wonders. He said, how do you learn that? He said, look, it said, V'lo tehalelu et Shem Kodshi, that you should not, has v'shalom, desecrate his holiness. V'nikadashti betoch bnei Yisrael, ani Hashem mekadeshchem. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu given us a guarantee, given us a promise that the miracle and the wonders that he done with Bnei Israel in Egypt when he redeemed them, it wasn't only in Egypt. He will still continue to do it with us all the time, even if we're not going to see it. Even if to our eyes, it looks like natural. No, everything is a miracle. He said that here HaKadosh Baruch Hu given us his promise that he will do it. Where do we learn that he given us? Hazal say in Parashat, in Sefer Shmot, in Parashat Kitisa, in chapter 34, verse 10, it says, Ine anochi koret berit neged kol Israel, amecha e'aseh niflaot. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu already told us, when he redeemed us from Egypt, he promised us that not only that he done for us the miracle then, he will do for us miracle until the Mashiach come and after. What it means until the Mashiach come and after, that's what we have to understand. Many people think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when I say many people, I'm talking about other nations, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu have a mediator between them, okay, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's how the nation thinks. That always there is a mediator in every other religious, if you look. Said Rabbi Ovadia Misforno, the Jewish people have to understand by that it say, Ani Hashem mekadeschem, I'm the Almighty, make you sanctifies, okay? It's come to teach the Jewish people that the Jewish people have to understand that in every generation, wherever they are, there is no mediator. There is us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu here given us a promise. What was the promise? That not only that he done the miracle when Bnei Israel left Egypt and Exodus, that miracle will be until the Mashiach coming after. That's one idea. The Ramban that I'm talking is Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. That's the Ramban. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, just to give you a history, he born in the city of Catalonia in Spain 827 years ago. In his commentary, and he actually bring the Torah Kohanim. What it means, Torah Kohanim? Torah Kohanim, I explained that before, it's a midrash halacha on Sefer Vayikra. That means it's a midrash that have the law on the book of Sefer Vayikra. In Sefer Vayikra, there, that Torah Kohanim bring, he said, from here you learn something very extraordinary. He said that here you learn what it means, V'nikdashti betoch bnei Israel, that the Jewish people have to understand that there's 3 negative commands that they're not allowed to do. What it means not allowed to do? Is obviously if it's negative command, you're not allowed to do, but why dafka those 3? And they are murder, avodah zarah, that's worshipping idols, and gilui arayot. Gilui arayot, it's immorality. He said like this, listen what the Rambam say in the name of Torah Kohanim. Has v'shalom, if people ask or force the Jewish people, other nation, to worship idols, or has v'shalom, a person said to the Jewish person, kill or commit idolatry, if you're not going to do one of those, I will kill you. That Jewish person supposed to kill himself and not to commit one of those 3 negative commands. All the rest is different. But those three, that it's murder, idol worshipping, immorality, a person rather die and not do them. He said that from here, when you're going to keep those three, that's how you're going to sanctify me. How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu get sanctified? When people come and try to force the Jewish people, Chas v'Shalom, to worship idol, and that Jewish person refused to worship idol, by that he doesn't worship idol, that's how the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets sanctified. Even if he has v'Shalom, have to give his own soul for it. By that he not worshiping idol. The second one, murder. Person force a Jewish person to kill other Jewish or other person, you're not allowed to do it. And we'll get to it now, why not? And the third one, what is it? Gilui arayot, immorality. He said that those three show the belief that the Jewish people, when they don't do that, they have a belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because who gives soul to the world? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Idol worshipping, that means that there is a mediator. By that you're not worshipping, you're actually conquering all the belief of other nations. Immorality, that's the basic and the basic foundation behind the emunah. Because, for example, lo alenu velo al af echad me'am Yisrael. If a person go with a married woman, that means that he doesn't think what HaKadosh Baruch Hu given him is enough. That means he married and he going with another woman. What are you doing? You're taking other person's woman? That means that you don't believe what you have is enough. You don't think that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu given Chaim Yankel is good for Chaim Yankel, is not good for you. By that you're doing that, you have no emunah. So come and say Hazal to us, very important. Shlosha, Yihareg ve'al ya'avor. 3 mitzvot we have, negative command, that a person has v'shalom, whatever happened, not allowed to do them. He said, how? By that you don't do them, you actually sanctify the name of Hashem. And that's what is the Rambam bring in the name of Torah Kohanim. Now we understand that. Let's move on. Now I'm going to skip to verse 3 in chapter 23. Chapter 23, verse 3. And here we see something very extraordinary. Look what it says. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha. וביום השביעי שבת שבתון מקרא קודש כל מלאכה לא תעשו שבת היא לאדוני בכל מושבותיכם.
For 6 days labor may be done, and on the 7th day is a day of complete rest, a holy covenant. You shall not do any work. It is the Sabbath for Hashem in all your dwelling places.
Okay. It says something very interesting. Look what it says. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha. Te'aseh. Why it doesn't say ta'aseh? It says te'aseh. What it mean te'aseh? By someone else. And many of the mefarshim say, what it mean te'aseh? Someone else would do the job? It should say ta'aseh melacha, that you're allowed to do. That's the question of the mefarshim. There's millions of answers. One of the beautiful answers that there is here, it's actually according to the sod, to the secret. He said by that the Torah tells us te'aseh, that means that someone else going to do your job during the 6 days, the holy days. He said when a person keeps Shabbos properly, keep all the halachot of Shabbat and enjoy Shabbat, there is a guarantee that all the 6 days, the holy days, all the work that he will do, it will done by someone else. What do you mean by done by someone? I'm going to work. He said, yes, you're going to work. But that the work works so easily, that the work fitting like a Lego, and everything fit together, and there is no chorus. It's because the brocha of Shabbat. Ki hi mekor haberacha. Rabbi Shlomo Levy Alkabetz. Rabbi Shlomo Levy Alkabetz, born in the city of Saloniki in Greece. And he wrote Lecha Dodi that you all singing. And one of the things that he said in Lecha Dodi, Ki Shabbat hi mekor haberacha. The Shabbos is the source to all the brocha. That the Torah come and tell us here a secret. You want everything to work for you all the 6 days of the week? Look how your Shabbos work. If you keep Shabbos properly with all the mitzvot, everything will fit for you properly. You don't have chores. But has v'shalom, if you don't keep Shabbos properly, according to the level that you didn't keep, that's the chores that you're going to have during the week. The Mefarshim say, from here you can understand, Sheshet Yamim Ta'aseh Melacha. You think that you're going to work? Yes, you're going to work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show like you're going to work. But it's mean Ta'aseh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu organizing for you that everything going to fit together nicely. How's that? By that you keep Shabbat properly. That's the secret that hiding behind Shabbat. And that's what he said. Sheshet Yamim Ta'aseh Melacha. You keep my Shabbos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, I'll guarantee you that the 6 days of the holy days, that your job will be done for you. How's it going to be done? You're going to go to work. But you're not going to have a chorus with your staff. You're not going to have a chorus with your machinery. You're not going to have a drain cup with your suppliers. Okay? You're not going to have a drain cup with your creditors. Everyone going to go smoothly. And that's the idea behind Sheshet Yamim Ta'aseh Melacha. And then in the same verse, it says something extraordinary. Look what it says, Shabbat Shabbaton. Ubayom Shvi'i Shabbat Shabbaton. On the 7 days, it's a Sabbath, Shabbaton. But you say already Shabbat. Why you have to tell me Shabbaton? If it's Shabbat, I know that it's Shabbat. Why you have to add up the word Shabbaton? So before I answer that, we have to understand what it means Shabbaton mean. Shabbaton, it means small. Small, how do I get to it? The Mefarshim explain that you say Yeled, Yeldon. Yeled is a boy. Yeldon is a younger one, a smaller one. He said when it's come to Shabbat, there is a Shabbat and there is a small Shabbos. Where did you see a small Shabbos? Where did you come with that? I saw a beautiful commentary of the Ramak. Ramak, it's Rabbi Moshe Cordoviro. Rabbi Moshe Cordoviro, born 499 years ago. It's not sure where he born. No one really can say that he born wherever. We all know that Rabbi Moshe Cordoviro, he was one of the greatest Mekubalim that the Jewish people have, that lived in the 13th century in Tzfat. He was the greatest Mekubal, Rabbi Moshe Cordoviro, everyone know it. He wrote the famous book, Pardes Rimonim, that I quoted a number of times. It's all Kabbalah. There, Rabbi Moshe Cordoviro said a beautiful commentary. By the way, if you take the word Cordoviro, it's Cordova. Cordova is in Spain. And many of the Mefarshim said that it is most probably that his family, because if you look at the time, it's the same time that Marana Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, in the same time, in the 13th century, the all was in Tzfat, in the golden era of Tzfat, they all lived. So most probably the same like the Marana Bet Yosef that was Migurushe Sfarad, that means from the Jewish people that have to leave Spain, the exiled Jews from Spain, most probably what it means that Rabbi Moshe Cordoviro, from the same name, you can say that his family come from Spain. They have to exile from Spain. And he said something extraordinary. He said, like we said, that Shabbaton is small Shabbat. He said, but there is here a secret. He said, when it's come to Shabbos, Shabbat in Eretz Israel, when Shabbat came in Eretz Israel, there is certain place in the world that it's not Shabbat yet. For example, in Brazil. In other places, Shabbat is already entered. He said, from here you come and learn. Shabbat, it's only in Eretz Israel. The Shabbat, you can pasken only according to Eretz Israel. The proper Shabbat, it's in Eretz Israel. But when it's come to Shabbaton, it's in the diaspora. That means they have to paskin according to their time. And according to their time, they have to keep Shabbat. They're not allowed to desecrate the Shabbat. But it's not the proper Shabbat like in Eretz Israel. That means if you look at the States, you look at Australia, especially bring those continents, or you look at South America, Brazil or Panama, they're like 7-8 hours behind Israel. How does it work? That means while in Eretz Israel is already Shabbat, in some places in the world, it's not even Shabbat yet. It's come to tell you, say Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, that from here you learn how great Kabbalistic he was. 400 years ago, how, or 500 years ago, how can you tell that in Israel it will be Shabbat, but in certain places around the world, not going to be even Shabbat? How can you know that? Or when it's in Eretz Israel, it's already Hol, there is still Shabbat because they're behind us. It's come to tell you that's what it means, Shabbat, Shabbaton. The real Shabbat, it's only in Eretz Israel. Shabbaton, the little Shabbat, where is it? It's in the diaspora. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all merit, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will merit us all over the world, that all the Jewish people, that we should merit to keep Shabbat properly, to do the Shabbos like HaKadosh Baruch Hu love, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send us Mashiach Tzidkenu and build Bet HaMikdash. Because Chazal say in the Gemara, Ilu Israel Meshamrim Shnei Shabbatot, that means if the Jewish people will keep 2 Shabbos properly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu goel otanu. What it means goel otanu? Redeem us, send us Mashiach Tzidkenu. So Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all merit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will redeem us. Not only redeem us, will build for us Bet HaMikdash speedily in our day. Amen. If there is any question, please unmute the microphone and you can ask. Any question? Bechavod? Anyone want to ask question? No question. Okay. I hope that everyone understand. Baruch Hashem. Rabotai, please God, on Sunday we're going to meet again. I just wanted to tell you something very important. Today, when we count the Omer, tonight we count the 33 days of the Omer. For those of you that didn't count, remember it was the 33. When we say today, Ayom Shlosha u'Shloshim Yom LaOmer, שהם 4 שבועות ו5 ימים. Rabotai, I didn't want to say it, but I heard it from a Mekubal, Rabbi Ben Zion Mutzafi. He said that tonight, all the difficulties that was for people, okay, because the student of Rabbi Akiva died, and tonight they stopped, tomorrow they actually stopped dying. From now, everything going to move on smoothly. You see that now all the difficulty that people have, the uncertainty, unsure that people have, unsurety, everything going to change. That means from tonight that we say, Hayom Shlosha u'Shloshim Yom LaOmer, after you say that, say the Mekubalim, and that's why they go and celebrate tonight with the fire. Tonight, the Torah. That means there is a secret that from tonight, the Mekubalim explain that things going to go smoothly. So those people that have a bit of a hard time, that battle with certain things, Be'ezrat Hashem will see miracle, that everything's going to fit into its place like it should fit Be'ezrat Hashem. Any question?
Amen ve'amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen, Rav. Amen. Shkoyach,
Thank
Rav.
you.
Amen.
Yeah, Baruch Tiyeh. Thank you, everyone. Any question? Anyone want to ask question?
Rob,
No.
thank you.
Shkoyach.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Rolf.
Okay, good. So in that case, we'll meet Be'ezrat Hashem on Sunday to wish all of you Shabbat Shalom. Please God, a beautiful Shabbos to all of you. Keep well, keep safe, all the best. Shabbat Shalom u'mvorechet lekum.
Thank you, Rav. Amen.
Thank you, Rolf. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Rav.
much.
Bye-bye.